Hello there. You join me on a wet and windy Saturday morning in May. It must be a bank holiday weekend in Britain. Here we are on the outskirts of London, heading to the historical tobacco dock for the Bike Shed Moto Show 2025. Buildings at Canary Wharf are just about visible in the distance, but fortunately there hasn't been much rain to spoil the ride. The Super Meteor has handled the ride down the A13 well, and it has been comfortable and smooth. Ah, good old London with its 20-mile-an-hour speed limits and cameras, so welcoming. Somehow I managed to find the venue without the aid of navigation. Following a couple of bikes helped, but here we are coming up to the location, and what a location it is. The venue is an historical warehouse for storing tobacco, built in 1812. It was then a short-lived shopping centre in the early 90s, which is where the replica ships come from. Nowadays it is an exhibition space, and what an amazing backdrop to come and see some custom motorcycles. The first thing I did was to avail myself of the free haircuts on offer, and the wonderful Dan turned my mop into something which looked good. It was worth the admission price alone. Let's just see this building though. What a building it is. It is great to see some of our old buildings being repurposed and put to good uses instead of being knocked down for glass structures or ugly looking prison block style flats. There were 2 floors to the venue, though most of the exhibitions were upstairs. There were a few bits downstairs and an area for viewing things on the big screen, such as the new Charlie Boorman and Ewan McGregor series. There were also a lot of little street food style eateries and a music stage with various acts throughout the day. It was a 3-day event, though I only visited on a Saturday, so I don't know how Friday night and Sunday varied. But it was very busy on the Saturday, and it was hard to see some of the bikes at times, with people standing around in groups discussing them. I went round a few times to make sure I could see everything I wanted, and sometimes it was quiet and you could spend time with a bike, other times it was clear I'd have to come back. There was a lot on display, but not enough to entice me to use the ticket to return on the Sunday. I enjoyed my time there and marvelled at the craftsmanship and artistry of the makers, and left with some ideas for what I could do to my motorbike, or even ideas if I purchased a second. But today was a great reminder that there is a style of bike for everyone, and that a bike is as personal as individual as the person riding it. Even little changes to a motorbike make it truly yours and show off your personality to the world. From the outlandish chopper to the slightly modified racer, to the corporate themed unique one-off motorbike, to a repainted normal bike, it doesn't matter what your taste or budget is, there is a bike out there for you, and one that you can truly make your own. And there were some truly amazing bikes on display that are worthy of being art pieces in a collection. As well as custom bikes on display, there were places where you could buy art pieces, get tattoos or purchase motorbike gear. I didn't purchase anything myself, but there was a lot on offer from different stores. All in all, a good day out with lots of things going on for the motorbike lover, and it was a joy just to walk around and admire the historic location. I'll leave you to view some of the art pieces on display. Let me know what you think and which was your favourite bike. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe and have fun.